That's Mount Fuji, well, somewhere behind the clouds, and this is a 2026 Nissan Z. Why would I come thousands and thousands of kilometers over the Pacific Ocean to drive a car I've already driven before? Well, first off, there's a road we're about to hit that I've never driven, and second, Nissan has actually been selling more of these year over year since it came out, and that was before they just announced the 2027 model year update at the Tokyo Auto Salon. Here in Japan, a car like this fits in a totally different way than it does in North America. And honestly, it was just an excuse for me to get behind the wheel of this car in a new set, a new setting, a new context, and see if my opinions have changed since I last drove it 2 years ago. It's that simple. Let's go drive. But before we do that, you might notice this says Fairlady Z on the back. Maybe you know this, but here in Japan, I believe ever since the inception of the Z, that's what these models have been called over here versus the USDM market that is just Z. Rest assured though, underneath, mechanically, this is identical to the Z you guys may or may not have driven over in the US. All right, let's do some kind of launch here. Build some boost. Not bad for 5 degrees on the ground. Part of me was wondering why Nissan Z sales are up year over year, or have been since the car was launched. But then I'm like, well, no, the Nismo came out last year, so that makes sense to me. But also, part of it could be due to the fact that it is cold out. The GTR is now gone, and Nissan only has this car to bring the enthusiast crowd, well, some enthusiasm. The biggest change though, is that the Nismo will be getting a manual transmission. That was a huge miss. It should have come with a manual right from the jump, but it's almost like the new Dodge Charger Daytona in a way. Why they would release that EV only to begin with, I have no idea. Why they would release a Nismo Z without a manual and then release it a year later, kind of strange to me. But either way, things are looking good in terms of sales success for the Z, which should mean, I hope, a future that includes more rear-wheel drive front-engine cars. I'm not shifting a manual transmission, which really does suck. This one's equipped with a 9-speed automatic. Of course, if you don't know, it's got a 3-liter twin-turbo V6 under the hood, 400 horsepower, 350 pound-feet of torque. On a road like this, it's the perfect amount. Get a little bit squirrely there. And it will let you hit redline there. That was fun. If you're in manual mode. You don't really get understeer. This car's incredibly balanced. It's fun to chuck around. I feel like I have a ton of control. This one I'm driving is the equivalent of the performance trim. Oh, it definitely needs to be in sport mode to get any kind of enthusiasm or urgency out of this thing. The equivalent of the performance model, I believe it's called the ST here in Japan, but basically what that gives you is a mechanical limited slip diff in the back. You get bigger brakes, 4-piston in the front, 2-piston in the rear, and some Alcantara inserts on the interior. That's about it. Power seats as well. And everything about the driving experience is exactly what I remember, but the more I drive this car, the more I love it. I had complaints when I drove it 2 years ago for the first time. The things that I really didn't like about the Z are all still here. The infotainment's a little bit clunky. It feels a little bit dated. Some of the plastics aren't great if you poke around. Paddle shifters, they're big, but they're plastic. They don't feel the greatest. Yeah, down there, whatever those buttons do, I'm not too sure. At least they've given us a physical volume knob. First thing you're gonna wanna do on any kind of road like this is put it in sport mode. This 9-speed auto is actually really snappy. It's quick to downshift. Even if you're not in sport mode, if you're on the freeway and you need to make a pass, you would think it's gonna be hunting for gears. It's not. It's really good, but in sport mode, that's when the downshifts just get a little bit better. However, sometimes it will just not give me upshifts, which is a little bit strange. Standard mode, sport mode, full throttle, light throttle, it doesn't matter. I've had that happen more than a few times. Yeah, don't expect 10 out of 10 performance here. But as far as a street car, it's so good. You have that combination of just like enough body roll, and this is kind of the perfect combination, the perfect sweet spot in between the base model, which gets slightly softer damper tuning, and the Nismo, which I've heard is a little bit stiff for the street. So this is right in between, and I can still feel what the car's doing at lower speeds. It's not really that interesting at low speeds until you get the rear end out, right? And that's kind of the problem with this car, but maybe it's not a problem depending on how you look at it. If you're just on the freeway, super comfortable. Road noise, it's quiet, these seats are amazing. It's just the easiest car to drive. Can we just take a second to appreciate the views around here? This is amazing. I'm not gonna tell you exactly where this road is, but you get the idea. It's somewhere around Mount Fuji. Back to the Z. So for the 2027 model year update, of course, like I mentioned, the Nismo gets a manual. That's the biggest change. So they've updated the grille. A lot of people complained that this looks a little bit kind of just like a rectangle, which it is, of course. So they've added a crease, throwing it back to the original Zs. I think it looks great. I don't have a huge problem with the way this car looks as is, but I can see why they did it. The rear stays largely the same. And then the Nismo gets upgraded brakes still for the 2027 model year, apparently taking a few parts from the R35 GTR. Now, details are scarce at this point, but that's basically the update. In the rear end, as far as practicality goes, versus the Supra, when you open a Supra, the cargo hatch area here is so narrow, whereas here you can see it extends, okay, not quite till the edges, but sure, it's a little bit shallower, it's not quite as deep, but it's wider. So this does have a little bit more cargo capacity than that car, but you'll notice the biggest flaw, and I've run into this a couple of times, you can see a mark there from my suitcase, the big bulges here from the strut towers. So it's an awkward cargo area, but overall, I mean, this car is as practical as a two-door coupe can get. So one of the things you'll quickly realize driving in Japan is that, I don't know, half the population is driving K cars. And a car like the Z begins to feel big really quick, which means the GTR is huge. It's almost undrivable. Like, you'll be driving and the GPS will take you down a certain road and you'll just have to stop and be like, oh, I give up. I can't physically take the GTR down this totally legal road. And then you have to turn around. So the Z here, it's a big car, but still small enough that dodging pedestrians around the city was easy. In North America, having a much larger daily in addition to the Z would feel normal, but space is limited here. So the fact it's a bit smaller, softer, and quieter than something like the GTR works in its favor. Dodging pedestrians at 5 kilometers an hour was easy, but in a city packed with 40 million people, it's a big, comfortable sports car you can daily. Back home, on wide stretches of open, twisty roads, unless you got the Nismo, it wasn't quite the razor-sharp weekend toy you'd hoped for. It's a grand tour. It's just a little bit more of a friendly experience than the Supra. If this had a dual clutch, you know what it feels like? I'm just imagining. Stick a dual clutch in this thing, have snappier downshifts, rev matching, instantaneous upshifts. This would be almost like a GTS-T Skyline to a GTR. What that car is to a GTR, which is, the GTR is the heavier all-wheel drive, more complicated, kind of track-oriented, tech-focused vehicle, and then the GTT sits, I don't know, half the price below it, and it's rear-wheel drive, it's lighter, it's a little bit narrower, contact patch isn't as big, but it's a little bit more fun at lower speeds, and I think, especially here in Japan, I mean, the Z would be way better on this road, is way better on this road than I think a GTR would be. When those turbos fire up, and they fire up quick, you've got to be prepared for the rear end to just kick out. It's one of the best parts about the power band. Thing is though, this entire time I'm driving, I'm just like, I can tell there's fake noise being pumped into the cabin, and it just feels like the whole time there's like a light film or a light layer over top of the powertrain and the experience. Do I have to take that metaphor anywhere else? I don't think so. I think you guys get it. Yeah, predictably, the automatic sucked 99% of the fun out of the Nissan Z. That to me was kind of predictable. Maybe you're not a 3-pedal kind of driver, but I am. Even still though, despite that, I'm glad I drove the 9-speed auto, especially here in Japan. It gave me a new appreciation for this car. The more I drive it, the more I love it, especially if you were to take this on a road trip, drive it all year round, just extract the most amount of miles in all different kinds of scenarios that you could. That's where the Nissan Z would be rewarding. This to me is not like a weekend only kind of car. Although it could serve that purpose, I think it's best served, manual or auto, as an all year round daily driver. It's so comfortable, so quiet. And yeah, while there are certain characteristics of the engine I don't love, namely there needs to be more sound, more theater, more soul. As cliche as that sounds, I think overall it's a great car. I just hope that Nissan follows it up eventually or continues to evolve and make it better as the years go on. So thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you soon.